Are all people mentally ill?
I have no idea.
Is this the Dr. Ray?
I'm out of work. How do I find a job?
I don't know.
Boy, you hit the nail right on the head there.
Now, why would I say something so dumb?
I don't know.
I don't remember what I said. Help me out.
I listen to you all the time. You're my shot in the arm.
Well, it makes sense from your perspective and your individual brain.
And I guess that's true, but doggone.
Well, are you better than God?
No way.
Oh, I think I'm going to have to change this channel. I'm sorry.
Oh, no!
Great stuff, Dr. Ray. I'm glad I called.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Dr. Ray, have you ever written a book about narcissism? Yes. Yes, I have. It's all about me. This book's all about me. Very nice to have you here on this ePerson Monday, a variant of The Doctor Is In. Had to find some way to address as best we can the ePersons who come in from the TV show Living Right with Dr. Ray or the radio show here about situations, circumstances. Many of them are asking if I'm aware of a book or asking about a therapist in a given geographic area. Sometimes they make comments. They don't really want any response. They just want to offer a thought or two. And so that said, we will get to these ePersons shortly. Some on my phone and some printed out here. It is... I'm going to use the word nice, but I don't think that's exactly the right word. It is relieving. It is encouraging. Encouraging is the word. It is encouraging to hear awareness growing of this generational fractures, where so many of these young people are writing off their parents, resisting their parents' religion, morals, politics, in a very hurtful way. In the old days, say 20 years ago, dysfunction was a big cause of all of this. Dysfunction in the family was just bad. And it still is. But what you're seeing is a momentum. More and more are severing contact with their parents because they simply don't like their parents, or they don't like the way they were raised, or they don't like the way their parents think. And so that particular phenomenon is becoming very prominent on social media. It's becoming prominent in articles. I've seen more and more articles on it. Books are coming out. A friend of mine has just published a book, No Contact. And she's touched into this, and she recognizes it, and it's, as I said, encouraging for me to see this. I mean, it's something we've got to recognize. Now, therapists have had more than their share of a hand in all this, because therapists have decided, in many respects, I don't want to say as a group, but many therapists have decided that if a young adult describes their frustration with life or their difficulties or their self-defeating behavior or whatever, and they believe it stems all the way back to their parents, even though the parents really didn't do anything wrong other than being human, the therapists are too often likely to confirm how the young adult thinks. Well, yeah, it sure sounds like your parents set in motion all this stuff that you're struggling with. And one of the relationships I've noticed, and I haven't seen articles on this yet, I'm wondering if and when some therapists are going to start making this observation. It seems to me that the more an adult, a grown adult, whether young or even 50, is messing up their lives, they're miserable, making bad decisions in relationships, struggles with their own kids, religious upset, whatever it is that is assaulting their life emotionally, behaviorally, socially, making them miserable, if you want to shortly describe it, they're more likely to blame the parents. It takes a lot of insightful strength to look at yourself. Say, where I am at age 33 is an accumulation of a lot of bad moves on my part, a lot of bad thinking on my part. And I've got to take a hard look at me and find out exactly what I can do to get this train gone in another direction. But instead, I look at my misery or my upset or my frustration or my anxiety or my depression or my chemical use, and I want to blame someone. And I'm not going to blame the mail carrier. Can't really blame the flight attendant. Can't blame the server at my favorite restaurant. No, I got to blame my parents. They're the ones who put all this in motion, at least as I see it. So yes, I am saying that there is a higher correlation between my misery as a young adult and my inclination to sever from my parents. I see it. I see it as a therapist. If someone is miserable and unhappy, well, obviously there's just so many things my parents did wrong, and this is how I've landed in these circumstances in my life. It's their fault. Oh yeah, I'll take some blame, but you know, they had their hand in it too. And it used to be that there was identifiable dysfunction or pathology in that home life. You know, looking back on it, gosh, there was abuse or severe neglect or narrow-minded criticism or lack of love, you know, just blatant stuff that 100 people would look at, and 96 of them would say, whoa, man, you poor thing, you did have it rough growing up. But more and more, that's not the case. These are people who are being turned on because they tried to raise the child with some set of morals, some set of values, some set of religion. And as the adult went the way of the culture in the way they do things, which doesn't work too often, they've got to find a scapegoat. Mom or dad. Mom and dad. Of course. There it is. And my misery will only decline. I'll only feel better if I get away from you. At the very least, you need to set up some boundaries. And if you assault those boundaries, then I will sever the connection. And I will only reconnect based upon my will, my desire, not the fact that you might be trying hard to reach out to me. I'm Dr. Ray.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Do you feel as though life is flying past you? Are you desperate for a way to find moments of peace and quiet? Lord, Teach Me to Pray, the free Ignatian Prayer Series, will open your heart to His voice, to the peace you are seeking and the only love that fulfills the human heart, Jesus. God is calling you to true joy, knowing Jesus personally. Lord, Teach Me to Pray is free. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com, click on the red box, order the Lord, Teach Me to Pray series now. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
I told him about the woman who came to me and said her two children hadn't spoken to each other for 2 years. Their grandma died, and she was very wealthy. She left half to each one. She said they're arguing over a commode. She said it's inlaid. Can you imagine being in hell and somebody saying to you, what are you here for?
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Announcing again our popular St. Paul Mediterranean cruise and pilgrimage, visiting over 10 biblical sites. You'll never read the New Testament the same again after exploring Athens, Ephesus, Corinth, Thessalonica, Philippi, Crete, and the Greek Isles, and much more. Mass at Mary's house. Our luxurious celebrity cruise liner awaits you.
To learn more about your Ave Maria Radio trip, find the Ave Maria Radio Travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net.
This program is brought to you by the following nonprofit underwriter.
Join Catholics at the Shore 2026, May 7th through the 9th at the beautiful Icona in Avalon, New Jersey. This year's theme, Needing Nothing More, invites you to step away from the noise and encounter Christ. Speakers include Patricia Heaton, UFC champion Bas Rutten, and pro-life activist Christian Hawkins, along with other powerful Catholic voices. To learn more, go to CatholicsAtTheShore.com.
Dr. Ray Guarendi, the program is The Doctor Is In. All righty. Thank you for joining me here. Okay, that's better, Andrew. Now I got it. 111. Okay, got that. My 26-year-old daughter and mother of 3 children uses THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. It's one of the many, many cannabinols in marijuana. It is the big one. It's the one that has the most punch. She doesn't speak to us. Again, this is what I'm talking about as my monologue, because we disapprove. When we regain contact with her, okay, is this being... This has happened before, and typically it's temporary, eventually reconnecting? Or is it saying we're going to reach out to her? I know she'll tell me it's medicinal. I just saw an interesting study. I forget where it was. They kind of reviewed a lot of things, and they said the medicinal uses of marijuana have been greatly exaggerated. So given that, yeah, there does seem to be some potential for easing up of various afflictions, but that it's controversial. She says, sometimes I start to think that maybe it is true that someone can use a small amount of THC daily and live a healthy life. And then she says, but no, that can't be true. People do use marijuana and do creative things and raise kids. I'm just so confused, and my head spins on the subject, Dr. Ray. The latest stuff coming out says this. Protracted, particularly daily use of marijuana raises the risk, most seriously, of intractable psychosis. Now, whether it is within people who are vulnerable, susceptible, or it in and of itself, because the accumulation of the chemical in the brain can cause this, it is pretty much without doubt now that the research says, yes, it raises the risk of deteriorating into an active psychosis. Now, that said, there is other research that says protracted use of marijuana does some things to the personality. Well, first of all, it's not good for the lungs. That's flat out. It's smoking is not good for the lungs. It also deadens motivation. It can slow a person's zest for a lot of things very much downward. The question becomes, of course, is this person using this as an escape? I just feel better on it. It seems to deaden some of my unpleasant emotions. It makes me a little socially at ease. So in my mind, in my belief, it has positive effects on my functioning. Well, if someone believes that, and I don't know, it sounds like maybe your daughter does, that it's going to be very difficult to convince them otherwise. Now, to your crux of your question, she doesn't speak to you because you disapprove. If you want to regain contact with her and your 3 grandkids, you're going to be forced into a situation to say, we really wish you wouldn't do this because we care about you. We don't want you to do anything that would hurt you. Now, she's not likely to accept that well, because in her mind she'll say, I know what I'm doing. I know that it helps me. I know it is medicinal, so you're wrong. Okay, back off. Back off. Say to her, but we will not say anything more about it. We want to have a relationship with you. You're our daughter. We love you, and we just want to have a relationship with you and the grandkids. And I would not say another thing about it. Now, if you say to yourself, Dr. Ray, I'm convinced it's not good for her. I'm convinced this is going to hurt her in more ways than one. At this point, that's irrelevant, because she doesn't want to change her behavior on this. And from what you can see, if it's not affecting the kids through neglect or serious dysfunction, then at this point she's functioning and you're not noticing anything particularly deleterious, then you're going to have to just go with the flow on this. There are a lot of people in my life, when I'm a cat, who I look at and I wish so much that they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. I can see it risking their health. I can see it risking their very life, what they're doing. They have physical problems that they're only making much, much worse by doing what they're doing. But there's no way I can convince them. I tried, and it was clear they didn't want to hear it. I think that's where you are with your daughter. She doesn't want to hear it. So therefore, you do everything you can to apologize and say, I really don't want to have this be a breach in our relationship. I don't want that at all. I want to be in your life with the kids and everything, and I will no longer say anything about your using the THC. I really think that's what you got to do here, Ma. Okay. All right. Now, there is a postscript to this from that. Additionally, this daughter has struggled with alcohol, and she uses THC to avoid alcohol. Well, that's interesting. I've not heard too many of those kinds of circumstances. But at that point, and that only reemphasizes what we were just saying, if she's convinced this is salutary, in other words, this is good for her health to do this, she weighs it. Yeah, okay, whatever minor risks there might be with my use of THC, Mom, I'll tell you what, they more than offset what can happen to me if I lose control with alcohol again. Now, whether that's true or whether it's not, whether she believes it or whether it doesn't reflect reality, it's kind of, again, irrelevant. Because at this point, she's more or less going to say, okay, this is why I do it. This is why it's good for me. And so far, this is why I'm doing it. All right. Let's see what we got here from... Oh, boy, this is a tough one here. I got enough time on this? Okay, I'm going to start it out. Probably take me through the break. My husband is constantly on his phone. Ooh. Unfortunately, this is nothing new. I believe it started early in our marriage when I was on my computer often for completing an online degree. Okay, so he got pulled into his phone more so than he was because he figured, okay, well, she's doing this, I'll do this. What the heck? She's not going to talk to me. I'm not talking to her. Not a big deal. However, we now have 3 children. He is constantly on his phone everywhere we go and in everything we do with them. And, that's a big and, she's got it in caps. He has a virtual weekend job in addition to his well-paying full-time in-person job that he uses as his reason to be constantly on the phone, family events, activities with our children, while trying to do intentional activities at home, you name it. Okay, so what he's saying is, I've got this virtual job I have to keep up with. I have to be there. I have to be on call. I have to be ready. And, of course, wife is saying, no, that's a justification that he's using. Now, I have to assume, writer, you've spoken to him about this more than once. Obviously, you're very frustrated about it. And when people are frustrated about something that their spouse is doing, this has been a sore spot. This is something that has gone on for years. You got 3 kids, so I don't know how old your kids are, but you got 3 kids. What do you do now? Because everything you've tried doesn't budge him. All right, so let's go on here. The job, the virtual job, pays minimally, but he enjoys it and insists we need it to help pay bills and debt. And she says, this isn't true. And he is on his phone regardless, all the time, on many pointless websites, doing non-related, job-related scrolling or playing news videos he, quote, needs for his part-time job. And then here's where she says, there is always an excuse for being on his phone. I don't want our growing children to have a father who's only half present all the time. And he absolutely refuses to make any compromises when I try to set limits, i.e. no phones at dinner or while doing X activity together. He also refused to see a priest or professional at my request about the issue. Any advice? Yeah, these are ones where everything you've tried to do has not only not worked, but it's made it worse. There's a certain component to many people, call it innate, that resists being told what to do. Especially if they believe, however incorrectly, they're doing nothing wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong. It's not anywhere near as bad as you say it is. Don't try to control me. Don't try to make me feel guilty. I need to do this for my job. And I'm sure that she's heard all this. So I had 2 particular suggestions. The first one is, say no more. What? Say no more. You've said everything you can possibly say. How much more can you say? You've tried. He won't budge. So, in the chance that you're trying to set limits on him and he sees it as you try to control him and tell him what to do, in the chance that you don't say another word about this, maybe you'll find that he gives up a little phone time. Now, my experience has been that is the better way to do it. If you continue to push on this, as it sounds like you have for years, and you're going nowhere, you have no option now other than to say no more at all. At all. And which means that you may have to set up activities with the kids, and if dad's along, he's along, and if he's not, he's on his phone. But here's what's going to happen. Here's part 2 of my advice. I don't know how old your kids are. When they're 3, 4, 5, 6, they're pretty malleable. Is it malleable? I don't know. And they will go with the flow on this. Age 8, 9, and 10, they'll start to notice this. And I want to talk a little bit after the break about them being teenagers with this. In a way, this is Look Back E-Person, because this is an E-Person I got from a wife, mother of 3 children, about her husband being on the phone constantly, everywhere, anytime, and he has a lot of reasons that he gives her, none of which she buys, and it's very, very intrusive. And I gave her 2 pieces of advice. I want to extrapolate those a little bit. The first one was, they have 3 children, so I'm going to assume maybe the oldest is 5, 6, 7, which means that this has been something going on in their marriage for years. And she's constantly gotten frustrated, constantly done everything she can, plead, beg, set limits, whatever, compromise with me, please, no phone at the dinner table, whatever it is. And he won't. So now is the time to say no more. Nothing ever again. No dirty looks, no rolling of the eyes, no saying anything to the kids. No, Daddy's not going to come with us, kids. He's on his phone. Don't do it. Resist it. Because the one thing that's probably happening here is hostility. He's getting hostile. Now, I'm not saying, Mom, you're not right. I'm not in your home, but I'm just taken by what you're telling me here. If he is doing this, then he's resisting you totally to back off at all. So, that said, you'll at least take away the component of whatever stubbornness might be moving him also. You're not going to tell me what to do with my time. You're not going to tell me when to use my phone. You're not going to tell me when I'm allowed to get on it. So you'll take that away. Reiterating what I said about the kids. Little kids are flexible. 4, 5, 6 years old, that's Daddy. They love Daddy. 8, 9, 10, they're going to start noticing. And they're going to start saying something, too. They'll have more influence than you will, Mom. 11, 12, 13, 14, they're going to retreat. They're going to say, there's no sense talking to Daddy. He's on his phone. They'll do these kinds of things. Now, I have seen situations where a spouse, a mom or a dad, on a phone finally gets the message, and it comes from the kids. The kids are the ones who start making comments or in many ways just give up. And that moves the person to say, oh, maybe I ought to reassess this. So those are the two things I think are important here. Third thing, and it's a generic comment. The research is just coming out in tsunami waves that these phones are designed to be addictive, particularly social media, particularly scrolling, particularly the internet. They're just designed to be addictive. My wife came across an article very recently that talked about the separation between the generations. Within a day, her phone was inundated with similar type articles. They knew exactly what you show an interest in, and we're going to pump it to you. And so, as a result, it doesn't surprise me that some people actually devote so much time to this phone. Now, I don't know the family dynamics there. I have no idea. And it could be that he's just not content in his marriage, or he's not content with having 3 little children, or they just get on his nerves. I don't know, and I'm not going to say that. But if that's happening, then the phone is an escape, or at least in part an escape. I have seen that. Now, I have seen it more common among women than men. Women are more verbal. They're more likely to interact with that phone socially than guys. However, if there is tensions in the marriage or in the family life, then the phone is something that is a counter to that. And that's only something I could know if somebody came to my office and I started asking questions. But I will tell you, It's not unusual for me to start asking questions and then seeing the picture broaden out, which is, yes, we don't have a good marriage, and it's not all due to the phone. It's not all a result of him being on the phone. There are other areas where we struggle. I'm not saying that's the way it is here. I'm just simply saying when you have someone with a habit that just won't budge, you start digging around a little bit to see what could be feeding that habit. Dr. Ray, I lost my husband of 42 years 2 months ago. Wow, that is fresh. That is just fresh. I feel like I want to be alone much, if not all of the time. Fair enough. Everybody grieves differently. I can understand that. And I oftentimes say, when you've been hit with grief, grief is the most stunning, overwhelming emotion that can hit you. C.S. Lewis talked about it being like being severely hungry. It's like a hollow feeling. My family wants to be with me more than before. And I think it's because they're concerned about me. Okay, fair enough. Am I okay in wanting to be alone? Well, you don't need to ask me that. It's your decision. It's not a moral decision here. But I think what you're saying is, am I okay psychologically speaking to wanting to be alone? Does this mean, Dr. Ray, that I'm not adjusting to the grief properly? No, I can't say that at all. It's only been 2 months. When I first started dating my wife, her dad had died 3 months prior. Her mom went to work. But for pretty close to the first year that I dated my wife and would be at her house, if her mom was not working, she was in her bedroom. Now, one might say, well, Ray, that's probably because you were obnoxious and she didn't want to be around you. I'm not denying that. But that's how she chose to grieve. She just shut herself up. Now, obviously, she pulled out of it. She says also, I feel like I need to be cheerful for them, and it feels like an additional burden. Well, I don't know if you do need to be cheerful for them. I don't know if they're giving you those cues or not. But if you're putting it on yourself that you need to be cheerful for them, then the first thing I would suggest is you don't have to be cheerful for them. You can just look at them and say, you know what? We were married 42 years. That was my life partner. It's been 2 months. Absolutely. But I think you can also tell them, hey guys, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. This is the way I'm grieving. This is okay. I will pull out of this, but for right now, I'd like being alone. I don't have to worry about when I cry. I don't have to worry about my mood. I don't have to worry about how I'm thinking. I don't have to worry about my emotions. This is me. Okie dokie, I like that little boogie woogie. Dr. Ray, what is the psychological definition of anxiety? Well, probably better to say what is the definition, and it's a very broad definition. Anxiety has several components. It's got the physiological component, the body's reaction. It's got the emotional component in its extreme. It's a sense of doom. Kind of like a panic attack comes with a sense of doom. And it has a cognitive component. In other words, you have to interpret the anxiety. You have to tell yourself what it means. Or you have to think yourself into a state of being anxious. So you're in a crowd, and you're thinking, are they judging me? Are they going to notice something about me that's embarrassing? Am I going to say something stupid? So yeah, there's three components, a very broad thing. So in a narrow term, anxiety is a body's reaction. It is a protective mechanism. Unfortunately, when it gets out of the realm of protecting you, then it causes you to feel like there is danger when there is no danger. How does this relate to Bible verses like, do not be anxious about anything? An anxious heart weighs a man down. Or the prayer at Mass, in your mercy, keep us free from sin and protect us from all anxiety. In these contexts, it looks like, sounds like, don't be worried about the future or about circumstances or about how you might find yourself trying to solve a problem. Don't be worried about this, not to the degree that, and I think in the context it means trust more in God. You have His grace, you have His strength, and this is not something that can overwhelm you if you don't let it overwhelm you. An anxious heart weighs a man down. Well, it certainly does. Certainly does. I got a new book coming out on anxiety, and I talk about this. The one thing anxiety does, it paralyzes you. In its extreme cases, it robs you of freedom. You don't have freedom of movement. You don't have freedom of opportunities. You don't have freedom of activities. You can't fly. Why? Because you're anxious, so therefore you can't go see your daughter in Portland unless she comes to you. Yeah, anxiety is a freedom robber. And then, in your mercy, keep us free from sin and protect us from all anxiety. Well, certainly. Wouldn't you want that? But I think also what it means here, protect us from all anxiety, means protect us from all misdirected anxiety. I might experience anxiety, rightfully so, if I'm in a circumstance that could be dangerous. Maybe I'm somewhere I shouldn't be. And I'm definitely ill at ease about being there. Well, I don't want to be protected from that. That's a warning. That's something that's telling me, ooh, my spidey senses are up here. I like spidey senses. That's really, in some respects, your anxiety kicking in, going, this is something you better be careful about. I read a book once called The Gift of Fear by a guy named Gavin de Becker. And his point was, you have to trust your instincts in certain situations when you're feeling anxious. What is it about the situation? Maybe the way that particular person is just by your car in the parking lot. And there's something about that just it tingles you. Okay. Becker says you got to trust those instincts, all right? You've got experience. You're very good at reading subtle cues, and your mind is processing all of this, and your body's warning you. Or anxiety. When I was in college, I was anxious about doing well on tests, and my anxiety was an ally, because without the anxiety, I don't know if I would have studied as hard. I don't know if I would have chased priorities like foosball. Okay, come on, pre-video. Okay, give me a break. Or pick up basketball, or parties, or sleep. A lot more pleasurable things than studying. However, my anxiety said to me, study. Study, Raymond. So in that sense, anxiety is not always your enemy. It's not always something you want to shred. Anxiety, in the context of those prayers, seems to be a misdirected kind of worrying. either about things you have no control over or stuff that you've created in your head. Example, someone's pregnant, and fortunately, most babies are born healthy now. That wasn't so in most of human history, but it's so now. However, they can get so anxious about this baby being healthy that it can actually affect them. So their pregnancy is a span of worrying. But in fact, they can't do a whole lot about what could be going on that's not measurable in this baby. Yeah, we can find certain things we can say, yeah, this is a potential problem, this is a risk, or this is something we've discovered. But much of the time, you can't discover a delay neurologically in the baby. So the kind of anxiety there that weighs you down is what if? I could do that here in this radio program. What if they come to me and say, we don't want you on the air anymore? You've lived your usefulness. You far outlived your usefulness. You've been around 23 years. Long enough. Get lost, Roy. Now, if in my mind I made that a catastrophe, oh, wouldn't that be awful? Wouldn't that be terrible? I like being with you. I like doing what I can do here. What if? And by the way, that has happened before. There were 2 other times when I was with another network, and they decided, no, we either want you full time, and if you can't commit to us full time, we're letting you go. I said, okay, I'm staying with EWTN. So I've had that experience, but it's not catastrophic. If I'm going to say, what if I lose my radio show, or what if I lose a TV show? All right, I wouldn't like it. But it isn't enough to make me anxious on any kind of regular basis at all. I mean, the thought might flip through my head every so often, but it's not going to stay there. Why? Well, because I can't do anything about it. And 2, it's going to happen eventually. I mean, if I'm here when I'm 90, and I go, what? Speak up. What? Who are you? What time is it? This is Dr. Ray.
As usual, you're doing all the talking.
You're listening to The Doctor. Come in, pull up a couch, let's talk. The Doctor is in.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically owned shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com. The Heart of the Interior Life with Elizabeth Jingle.
In the 10th rule of St. Ignatius of Loyola's 14 rules for the discernment of spirits, St. Ignatius invites us to think ahead during a time of spiritual consolation. He wrote, "Let the one who is in consolation think how he will conduct himself in the desolation which will come after." The invitation to think, while still in the warmth of spiritual consolation, to the return of spiritual desolation will assist us in preparing for the difficult experience of spiritual desolation when it returns. Father Jules Toner wrote, "If, on the other hand, I do look ahead, expecting the loss of consolation and the coming of desolation as the normal course of events, I am in a position, with God's grace, to maintain control of the situation and render the impetus of the desolation ineffectual against my prayer, work, and decisions."
For more information, visit AveMariaRadio.net.
The following program is brought to you in part by MyCatholicWill.com. Surveys show that more than half of Americans do not have a will. At MyCatholicWill.com, it takes as little as 15 minutes to write your will and secure a legacy of faith. MyCatholicWill.com is the exclusive online destination for creating a Catholic will. The process of writing a will is simple and now more accessible than ever. MyCatholicWill.com, a legacy of faith for those you love.
All right, I'm looking through this. Dr. Ray, you mentioned on an episode that God does not care how skilled or educated we are. Yeah, this was my monologue on the anthill. In terms of, if I were to say that ant is the smartest ant on the hill, wouldn't mean anything to us because we're so far above ants. And as far as we are above ants, God is infinitely farther above us. So therefore, we have somebody here that has an IQ of 160 and another person who has an IQ of 55. That doesn't mean anything to God. My husband and I are raising out of children. That's a nice way to put it. The fourth just went off to college. I'm turning 50 in October. I'm struggling with wondering what to do when the youngest goes off to school. I didn't graduate college. I have no degree call training, and I feel inadequate in this world. Oh, come on, don't do that. I tried to live by God's will and continue to do so. Thank you for your advice and answering my hidden question in it. Well, I don't know how hidden it is. I think it's my purpose in life was raising the kids. The kids are raised now. Where do I go from here? Obviously, if you put this question to a lot of people, they'll say things like, well, what can you do in terms of your own interests, in terms of hobbies, in terms of serving, in terms of a part-time job or even a full-time job? What can you explore? You are now free to do many good things. You're now free to serve. You said, I try to live by God's will and will continue to do so. And if you're saying to yourself, well, I don't know what his will is for me. Well, of course you do. His will is that you find a way to serve now. Not every minute of every day, but now you are free enough to do things. You can volunteer, visit nursing homes, do more work for the church. You can do a lot of stuff, all kinds of stuff. I don't know if I'll get satisfaction out of that. Well, you're not going to know until you do it. And satisfaction builds. You don't just necessarily jump into an activity that seems foreign and say, wow, boy, this is really great. I didn't realize what I was missing. No, it takes a little while to build. So that's one thing you can do. Feeling inadequate in this world. I sure hope you heard my monologue about the anthill. That God does not look at the smartest or the celebrities or the people who the world adulates. That doesn't mean anything to God. What he wants is our relationship with him and his son. That's what he wants, our obedience, our connection, not my IQ, not the fact that I've got a heavy degree, or not the fact that I'm an exceptional athlete, or not the fact that I'm the most well-known singer in the United States. None of that. That doesn't mean whit to God. Only to the degree that it might interact with one's relationship with him. As long as the relationship is priority by far. So, feeling inadequate is something that you've created for yourself. And it is how God looks at it. Not at all. So what you're doing is you're elevating your feelings above the reality that God says is how you should look at yourself. Now, that said, you said I did not graduate college. So what? I've noticed very little connection between someone's closeness to God and their degree. It may be there, I've never noticed it. So what you're saying is, what am I now? What usefulness will I have because my children are raised and I'm still relatively young? Yeah, you are. You're only 50 and the kids are out of the house. I mean, you could do what my wife and I did. I mean, when our last one left, we got into a parent protection program where they altered our identities and relocated us in Montana, way up north there, so the kids probably can't find us. Probably take them at least 2 weeks anyway, because I do have a social media trail. But that said, two things. One, you see yourself as inadequate. Well, that isn't how God sees you, that's for sure. And you're denying God his perspective. And two, you're plenty young enough, perhaps plenty healthy enough, to just explore a whole bunch of avenues and see which ones of them pan out and which ones don't. If you have 3 that don't pan out, but the 4th does, there you go. Life is expecting. This is Dr. Ray. I thank you so much for joining me on ePerson Monday. Good Lord permitting. I'll see you tomorrow where we can chat and jaw. Thank you for your company.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.